Hey everybody, great to have you back here for Trading ThinkScript. My name is Mike Fairborn. Folks, hey, I had some simple requests that we had recently, just different ways to look at trends, maybe with prices and see different um, changes within colors to identify the trend, which can be helpful when you're back testing. I wanted to address that with you today. Wanted to also incorporate some volume and some very simple ThinkScripts to kind of help us get that on our side as well as some Bollinger Bands. So a few different topic requests today, but as we hit those initially, definitely want to take some time to look at trading some of the ThinkScripts that we've got in place already. So with that, welcome to all of you here today. I'm joined in the chat by a good friend and colleague of mine, Mr. Kevin Horner. You can follow us both on X, Kevin Horner CS, Mike Fairborn CS. Hello to you, Josh, Life in the Fast Lane. Hello to you, Ted, as well. We've got Chris, Scott, Richard, as well as Felix and others in here. Folks, good to have you on board. Any questions, comments you have, or even topic requests for this particular class, be sure throw those in the chat box because I do review those at the end of the class if I can't get them during our session. So, all right, well, let's do this. Let's hit some disclosure so we get the show on the road. Welcome all. All right, information here is for general information purposes only and should not be considered an individualized recommendation or personalized investment advice. Now, the paper money software application, that too, is for educational purposes only as well. Okay, backtesting results presented are hypothetical. There's no guarantee that the same strategy implemented today would produce similar results going forward. Now, investing does involve risk, including for some products more than your initial investment. Past performance of any security strategies not guarantee future results or success. And lastly here, a look at some of our futures disclosures. You can see those listed there. And within that, we do look at futures, although we do not trade futures in this class. Just a quick note on that. All right, so we've talked about some of the steps for ThinkScripting previously. With that, a lot of times we're identifying a goal. In this class, of course, we do look at those. We do look at topic requests. We've had a lot of requests, just basic requests that I've had as of late around moving averages, breakouts. There have been a number of breakouts in the markets. It's the markets themselves. Many of them have broken higher. And anytime we're tying that into some of the indicators can be very, very helpful to use. Of course, we do share scripts in this class. A big portion of what we do now, though, too, is actually putting in and placing trades around some of these ThinkScripts that we have built so that we can take advantage of these potential opportunities. So with that, let's go ahead and dive on into our markets here and see where we're at, folks. And believe it or not, yes, we still are in that ascending triangle. And yeah, it just keeps the walls, you could say, or the trend lines just keep getting tighter and tighter. But the one thing about an ascending trend line is, no doubt about it, we are making new highs over here above a major high that was actually back before October. Excuse me, before Halloween. It was towards the end of October there. But that's the normal price run. For those people that are looking at ThinkScripts and ways to devise the scripts, many of them might be looking for upward moves. For example, you could go over here and just say, well, yeah, we've got seasonality suggests that, this time of year, and if you cancel out, tariffs, if you take out tariffs out of here, if you take out COVID, March actually is like this one of the second, I think it's the second strongest month if you go back even to 50 years behind November, oftentimes. And so we'll see what happens this year. They could take off, tariffs. We don't know what's going to happen with tariffs, actually, which is an interesting note just to bring up, because if tariffs do get taken off, you can see what happened when tariffs were put on. Does the market then rally? Supposedly that ruling could come out any day. More on that in tomorrow's class with markets and sectors, but a lot of people are worried about it, but actually it might be more beneficial for businesses if it goes off, so maybe not a huge worry. Anyhow, side note there, a lot to talk about in that regard, though, tomorrow. All right, so as we're looking at our markets here, and we can see that the S&P 500 itself is holding above a longer term. I have it up here. Let's see, simple moving average, just a straight up 50 to get that intermediate slash. Sometimes it's kind of in the middle of a short, long term trend. It's sort of an intermediate type trend. Let's put it on right now. That's the 50-period moving average. Another indication of potential market strength. You can see we bounced off of it here. Of course, going back We've held above that for quite some time, and markets will rally that way. Along with that, so too do stocks. In fact, Apple, as you look at it right here, what's Apple been doing? For a long time, it was above it. Now it is below it. If I go back on, a longer term chart, 2-year Apple, you can see that maybe some of, and this is one of the weaker performers in the Mag 7 as of late. So too is like Netflix, but you can see over here, pretty strong performance as we got above the 50, pretty strong over here. When we're trading below it, not as strong. Now, these can be somewhat tricky to see, and they may not be as clear, like how much time is spent above the moving average. But if we could visually see prices that are above the 50-period moving average, it could be actually easier to detect which moving averages out there might be best suited for a stock under a given condition of the trend. I mean, sometimes stocks, honestly, I've seen like utility stocks that can hold really well above the 100-day moving average, and they will test that like they test the 20, some of them, or the 50. Some are very much prone to a 20-period moving average. Apple, you can see, is maybe a 50 to some degree. Other faster growing stocks might be a 20. But how do we recognize that? Let me show you a little trick. And this is coming, this is all just from a request I had just to look at it differently. But I think they were definitely onto something, whether they knew it or not, or maybe they saw it somewhere else. But I've put on here just a simple price change. I want to talk about this first. Simple price change just to see and to be able to quickly back test trends and how they might be fitting on a chart. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one in here. I have it set as a 50. We do have inputs in here too, so we can change this. You can quickly try to find what trend might be best, what, when it starts to break up or break down, whatever. We're going to keep 50, and let's just put it on right now. I've got to actually click that show. All right, I'll show you how to change the colors, and I'll show you the code here in just a second, but this is what it looks like. You saw the 50-period moving average. Now, if we just say change the color of the chart when we're above there, this is what you get. Okay? And detecting these prices can be more helpful. You can see towards the bottom. Okay, well, first of all, there are big stretches here of green when you are above the 50. Okay? Easily something within, a ThinkScript capability. Over here too, you got it right here. So what some traders may be looking for is, maybe the 50 does work. And when we start to trade green over here. Now, if you had a whole lot of charts set up and you were just looking, you didn't want to have all these lines on the chart that were kind of a distraction, this is one way to also kind of do it. Now, realize it does change the color of the candles. They're all green or they're all red, depending upon where it's at relative to the 50-period moving average. But still, quite helpful. If I were to do this, watch. I'll go back over a little bit longer time frame. Let's go to, this is a 2-year, but you can detect, especially if you go back further in time, maybe where moving averages and certain moving averages might work better. And even, over here, once you actually cleared a high, it was pretty much a rally the entire time. And that's over, let's see. Yeah, several months, actually, right here. This 2 months. And you might notice a trend here. Red, 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 and then maybe some follow through in green. Now, could traders be anticipating that with the trend? Yes, but an interesting way to detect big picture what's going on. Now, I'm going to flip this over here, and we're just going to go right into a weekly because some of the weekly moving averages I think are even more fascinating for those people that say, I'm going to stick with the trend until it changes otherwise. This happens to be a 50-period moving average. I'm going to show you what it looks like if we just change this weekly over here to, sorry, right here. Yeah, and then I click the wheel right there. A 40. A 40 is not the same as a 200-day moving average. There are some variations and some leniency when you're looking at a weekly moving average, but we'll choose the 40. This is one of the one that a lot of traders might use as well. It's shorter term in nature, but you can still see, broadly speaking, is it bullish or not? Right now, it's still saying bullish, and notice where we're at. A long-term prior high over here. That could be interesting. I mean, it is a consideration. Let me just show you how simple this code is, and I'll throw it in the chat for you guys to take a look at it. By the way, I always put all of these think scripts, which are not guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy, but I put them in the bottom of the description under more, under the video. And this is simply all it is right here. It's so simple. It's just, okay, let's go through it. You guys see that? I can't really make it bigger. And you'll get it here in just a second, but you can plot any moving average in here that you want. It's the input, and we use it as an input so we can change the values on the wheel, right? We can adjust it very quickly without having to open up the code, that is. We can just change it like I did to a 40. This is what it is, but I've adjusted things. If you come over here, though, you can look at it. You can say, well, we're defining the moving average as a close in the MA length. We know the MA length because we've defined it up top. This structure right there of that line of code, you can do a lot with it. There's a lot of things that can be done with this, a lot of different varieties. We've done that in this class. Specifically on the color change, you can see over here. Assign price color, all one description there. Open parentheses, if the closing price is greater than the moving average, then green. Otherwise, if it's not, and it's saying basically, if it's not green, then we go red. And you can easily change those colors right there if you, in fact, wanted to do that. I don't know if Kevin would like these colors exactly. He's told me before that those aren't his favorite colors. All right. For good reason, too. All right. All right, let's go down here to, I'm just going to pull this up and throw this into the box so you guys have this. And let me just read what we've got. Let's see. You know, it can be subjective, but that's what we're trying to do too. I'm glad you threw that out there. We are trying to be subjective initially. We want to see maybe what mirrors the trend better. What is shorter term? And I don't get into like 41, 42, 44, whatever. I just use big round numbers. But what might work better with a given trend? For example, case in point, let's do this. I'm going to go back to this, and then we want to add something to it because there's also something interesting that can come up here that helps prices get moving sometimes. And I'm just going to show you a scan to help us with that. But if I do this first, let's go back to our daily, and we're going to flip over here, and I'm going to go. Oh, I like that wheel so much, I keep clicking on it. If I choose something like a 20, now think about some of the semiconductor stocks that have been moving quite fast. Okay, we added a few more bumps in here. Isn't that fascinating? What does that do for us? What does that tell us? Are we identifying particular bottoms on the chart when I flipped it to a 20? And I'm not getting too cute, believe me. I'm not getting too cute. I'm just trying to be a little bit discretionary here, letting the trend tell me what it's doing in a very, very simple way that could be very useful on trend, on a trend, but you're visually seeing it. We tend to do what off of 20? For Apple, at least this last run, we tend to bounce. Agreed? We kind of bounce there. Not every stock will do it. A lot of the Mag 7s might bounce. Here is a good look at Intel. You can see that a lot of its moves, particularly when we've identified the underlying trend, the dominant trend, higher highs and higher lows. Okay, so you can see this over here. A little teeny dip right there, but when we dip back down below here, we get out of it. It could be interesting. This one came quite low. There's your 20. You could do a 10. All I'm trying to do is say, within the structure of the trend, what information are we getting from this? By the way, quick note on Intel. It is getting, we did run up to one of those round numbers today, 50. We've run up for about, I'm showing about 15 bars here. 15 bars, yeah. And we're right at 50. And now we're getting a candlestick ahead of earnings. Oh, okay. Well, there are a few things going on. Sometimes if you run up ahead of earnings, people say, why did the stock go down? Well, what happened to the price? it was priced up. Now, it doesn't mean it couldn't even gap up higher, but I'm just saying sometimes prices can move up ahead of, look over here. I mean, here I am talking about it. I could just go back over here and show you guys. Notice we ran up over here. We ran up and then we began to come down. I don't know. There could be a lot of pricing that comes in here, but there you go. All right, let me just see what we've got here. We've got everything else going. Thank you, Kevin, for putting that in the chat as well. Yep, they're just not guaranteed for time series accuracy. I will say this, as long as the data that's flowing through the platform is correct, we have good data here, then, you know, those ThinkScripts should work out fine. All right. 20, yeah, for swing trading. And exactly right. I'm going to throw some of these in my swing trade class just so we can see them. But really helpful if you're going back and you want to say, how does it work on a weekly, long term? Boy, you can throw those out. I mean, you can pull them up pretty quick, actually. Visually, it's just easier than a lot of lines on the chart. Maybe, for some. Anyways, it was a request. We wanted to handle it. We could do it real easy. No voice. Uh-oh. URL not working. URL not working. Oh. Production team's telling me my sound's coming through fine, so they've verified that for us. But I don't know if that was, yeah, oh, quick note. When you copy that over that I sent through to you guys, what you want to do is go up top. Once it's copied, I'll just show you right now. So, well, I sent it through. I shared it. You go up to Setup, Open Shared Item, and this is where you're going to want to plug it in. I'm just going to go Control V, hit Preview, name it what it is. For me, I just try to choose a name, simple price change. Throw it in there, import, you got it. If you click on just this URL, it's just not going to, it's different. You know, this is to share the ThinkScript code, but you want to rename it after you hit preview. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So let's do this. Some of these two, I'm going to show you. We can use this as an example. I've got a number of different examples because it just happens frequently enough. And that is this, coming out of a whatever moving average. So this is kind of like a step 2. Step 1 was identifying the trend, but specifically that trend using, you know, the trend and the trend bounce using a moving average, right? Will that trend resume after we've broken above the moving average? Number 2, we're looking at volume spikes. Volume spikes. Okay, volume up. I'll just say volume up. And a lot of times traders might look at a volume up scenario as something like this. They're going to want to gather, go back in time, 50 days, for example. This is a very common one. I don't know how far back I went, but I'm just highlighting 50 days and say, what's the average of volume? And then after I get that average, go ahead and multiply that by a ratio, a percentage. If I was looking at 20%, which I built this on specifically right now, it'd just be times 1.2. That is an average break above that. And normally those spikes will start to happen within, I don't know, 1 to 3 days. I've kind of built this scanner this way to show you. So I've tied in, yes, this moving average already. And then we're going into the second point, which is the volume spike. Volume spike, not volatility, but volume spike. So let's do that right now. I've got a scan set up. This was actually the Bollinger Band one. I've got one I wanted to kind of point out too on Bollinger Bands because we had a comment question on that as well. This is going to be a simple moving average, yeah, plus volume. Let me just double check. I named it here. That's it. Simple 50 plus the volume. That's all it is. Let's look at it so you guys can see. We just looked at them previously. We'll pull it up right now, and I'll just show you what we've done. I did a couple of different things. I said instead of just being above the 50, I put a short term in. But the nice thing is we're going to be able to do what? We can change the scan if we want to pull up companies. It's so important, actually. I mean, if I were just to say to you guys, hey, you know, here we are over here, and I think many of you would follow along with this very, very quickly. But, you know, if price is above the 50 long term, and so let's say a 50 period moving average. So we've got I'll just try to draw in the price over here, just really basically, that doesn't look great. But you're above the 50 period over here, okay? But then you've had sort of a pullback that's like this. you've begun to trend down. That's not too unusual, particularly if prices have really run up strongly, sharply above a 50-period moving average. Here's my 50, where we lose track. Okay, that's 50 MA in yellow. All right, this is just part of price action that we just need to be mindful of. This is price in blue here. Now, that is a downtrend. If I get a volume spike as a downtrend, that's not a positive. And we could get those volume spikes coming down, which could mean that we're on the verge of breaking the 50-period moving average. It's as simple as that. Actually, this could give us a false signal. So in other words, we're saying volume, and I've got volume right there. At basically your regular volume times, and you're looking at a 20% move on that, a 20% above that level, okay, on the volume spike. That's just volume. If that's the case, we could break this. However, if we had a shorter term trend, red's not a good color for a shorter term trend. Normally I associate that with a downward move, but we're above this too. So we're above the 50 and above the 10. What could that suggest? Well, just like we were looking at back on that Intel, we could be seeing here, or Intel or Apple or whatever, this kind of a move. Notice down here. And by the way, the ones that do tend to go up, tend is the key word there. It doesn't have to. But you'll notice that if there was an average in here, boom, you start hitting it. I chose 20. 20 is not a huge move, but notice you're starting to get some spikes there too, and some more spikes and spikes. And I just said, hey, over the past 2 to 3 days, let there be spikes in volume, at least 20%. Some of these are going to be 50% or more, but a minimum 20. That's all I'm saying here. That's all I'm saying. That's what this scan will do for us. It just tries to give us one other dimension. Yeah, I said that right, dimension. It's kind of a different element, isn't it? It's totally different from price. It's volume. Above those moving averages that we just looked at, but then also, oh, I had this 5 days. Hang on. I'm going to go like, I'm going to do, I'm going to go 3 days. I'm just going to say 1.3. It's got to be 30% above average. The key point is it's above average volume. You could say 50%. A lot of people say at least 50% average volume. You're just going to get fewer hits when you run it. Let's click OK. I'm on the S&P 500. I think we're all good. I've arranged everything. We'll go ahead and scan this right now. And I've got 74 companies coming up. You see what I mean? There are a lot of companies that still come up. Now, it's looking for the past 3 days, that volume spike, but we've seen some moves with the market go higher. Some of these that come right off the top here, Goldman. Goldman had earnings today. Let's look at that. I'm going to watch this. Let's narrow this down even more. So I want to say bigger volume, just probably more indications of buying pressure if we're moving up above those two. 44 of 44, okay? Let's take a look at that Goldman right now. Goldman Sachs. A basic search like this could help us identify greater than the 50, greater than the 100. That could be a breakout. And by the way, I think we just had earnings today. Yes, we did. We did. We're getting kind of hit and miss on some of these financial companies. I think it's based around credit cards, credit card exposure, consumer credit cards, just due to restrictions on percentages and things like that that can be charged. But using our same 20-period moving average over here, look at this. You can see a lot of these spikes. I mean, it was clearly above the 20. It got back up above, a little dip right there again. Basically, it's just bouncing off the 20 here. Bouncing. This was a little bit of a bigger pullback over earnings, but there you go. Okay, what else did we get over here? There were some others. BLK, BlackRock, top of the list. Oh, another gap. So another gap. And what does that suggest? Buying pressure. Look at the volume. Volume. That's what we're trying to look at with the spike. It's so crazy because if you just make it sort of like an E equals, MC squared type of a simplified formula, what do you want? I want prices to be moving and I want bigger volume associated with it. A scan like this could be really easy. Let me go ahead and share it right now. And you guys, you've got to note too that like a scan like this is going to be, there's a look at it again, of course, changing these inputs as they come up, right? I'll just share it right now though. Here, you'll have it. And again, I'll put this at the bottom of the description in YouTube. Share this right now. We'll plug it in for you. And there you go. Okay. Yes, it does. Okay, so Sai asked a question. Oh, let me show you that. Okay. Yeah, are we good thus far on what we've got? But I think that's a good point to go back to real quick on that question. By the way, notice what else is in here. I like to organize these. I'll go right to it. So just 1 second. Come over here. You can organize them by sub-industry. Curious what's going on with some of the semiconductors. LRCX is in there. So is Intel. We're just looking at Intel, but Intel was one that also has a volume as well. It's above that level. Okay. Now there's one thing we could change over here if we wanted to. Okay. And I'm just going to highlight this right now. Instead of prices, the close greater than the 10-period moving average, I could simply just put crosses above right here. So it could make it even more specific. So in other words, yes, Intel is above its 10-day moving average. This is more kind of a center around volume, right? We know that. We just mentioned it. 3 days volume, right? 1.5 is what we mentioned. It's just got to be greater than, price has to be greater than the 10 and the 50 moving averages. But if we said crosses above, you guys have the script now, crosses above the MA, what does that imply? Timeliness. It just happened. And if we did something like that, it's not going to pull up Intel, but it may have pulled up Intel. In fact, it very likely would have pulled up Intel right over here when it got above a 10-period moving average. We're looking at a 20 here. Let's look at a 10, and we'll tell you on the price exactly when it went up. And this is to answer, I'm coming back to Sai's question here, but there you go. Where did it cross over the 10? All we're simply doing here is we're just using the change in price to visually give us a reference. Where does this stock tend to run with these moving averages? In a very simple way, but I think a very useful way, particularly when we're back testing. I'll show you right now. So this is just the moving average here. All I'm going to do is go in and go with a 10, and we'll click OK. And you'll notice that it will change when you get above the 10, the close above the 10. You see that there? If you're below the 10, it will be a red bar. If you are above it or just barely coming above it, I guess this would be our best example right here as we look at it right here off this bottom. When did we close above it? You can pick up on it still. I can actually see that clearly. We are above the blue line right there. That is our 10. That's all that does here for us. I was looking at it in the context of, I think it's useful on the chart, especially people that have a lot of different lines. It does get tough to see, but seeing it big picture can be helpful. Okay, but now we tied in volume into that, and there you go. So pretty much enough on that. All right, let's move on. We've got other things to look at too. Now, I built in here a very, very simple, take this guy off for a second. There we go. We clear on this thus far? I think we might be. Yes. Okay. Good. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it was a request, and so I want to, in this class, we do honor requests that come through, and we're always willing to get people up and going. So that's the whole idea within a lot of these scripts, and I showed you some ways to add volume. Now, what else could be done over here? Instead of just crossing above the 10 period, hey, a 520 crossover is also more specific to faster growing stocks, and sometimes that is semiconductors as well. By the way, I just want to take a look at AMD while we've got it. AMD bouncing off this long-term 200-day moving long-term. Well, it's long-term. It's there in place, but it's like a big round number, right? Sometimes you get bounces off these levels. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 bounces. That's our fourth bounce. Are we going to make a new high over here? It is kind of interesting as we look at it right now. Oh, shoot. There was one other thing. We had a request. I've got to put this in here, but just this daily, weekly, monthly. Yeah, it's just so I can scan through here. Somebody wanted me to add this down below. I'll put that too. It's just a good quick way to get time frames, just simply using arrows back and forth. Of course, I have all this in my grid charts. I've got the daily 35 as well. But there you go. That's what we're doing. Okay. Cool. All right. So let's do this. In building on a Bollinger Band too, one of the requests is that a reversion back to the mean on a Bollinger Band. And let's pull it up right now. I've actually got Bollinger Bands up here. Sweet. So basically the general length is the middle line. It's a moving average of 20. Okay. And then we've got a standard deviation above and below, and that's what plots out on a Bollinger Band. And you can also get over that 20 period moving average. If it begins to go flat, well, you can see that there is a standard deviation above and there is a standard deviation below. Now, one of the ways that a lot of traders will play this is they will look for a trade in the direction of the trend. So if they've identified the trend that's already going up, okay, they want to see prices touch below let's say, so here's the trend. Now we're looking at the Bollinger Band. AMD actually is kind of interesting here, but if they're saying, once I get above that lower Bollinger Band, if I break it back up above it, that's referred to as, the possibility for a reversion to the mean because you've dropped down below a 2 standard deviation point below the Bollinger Band. And that is using the moving average as a guide. Okay. So reversion to the mean means that whether it's the upside or the downside, prices will oftentimes come back to the what? The mean, and that mean might be the moving average. Now, looking for a bounce trade. They're looking for maybe a bounce off of the lower Bollinger Band because it could then revert back to the mean or begin to bounce higher in the direction of the trend. Very quickly, I'm going to show you guys this one because it is, you kind of say, God, that's sort of advanced in a degree. I mean, it's crossing back up above the Bollinger Band. It was below it. Now we want to find out when it got above it. How many days ago did it get above it? So we can do all that actually right within, believe it or not, I mean, just right within the condition wizard. So if we click on study over here, so I'm, again, in the scan tab, Stock Hacker, I've gone ahead and clicked on my pen here, and I can pull it up, and there it is. First things first, I want to delete the ADX crossover, but to build that, a reversion to the mean type move, condition wizard, we have to ask ourselves what's happening here. First things first, prices, folks, are bouncing. They went below the Bollinger Band, and they're coming back up above. So simply put, price action, closing price, it's an action. It's crossing above the Bollinger Band, which is a study. And anytime you have a study over here, anytime, you're going to have, upper line, midline, whatever's within that study. We're actually looking specifically at a bounce trade because the markets are bullish right now. We just looked. I mean, they're trending up currently. And so we're going to plot the lower band. We wanted to plot that on our scan. And we've got the length of 20 and everything as a default. I'm going to say within the last couple of bars. So very straightforward. All it is, you guys, is just, price action, closing prices, cross above, Bollinger Band, lower band channel, crossing what? Not below, but back above, which implies they were below and now they're above over the last 2 bars. Okay, that's it. Very, very simple in that regard, using this, and you got 27 companies here. Let's take a look at some of these now as we look at it. Now, again, have we added the 50 period moving average on it yet? We have not. And so these companies might not have had that yet. So this is just simply, you know, uh, bouncing back up above. Here's AFL. So this probably could be above the 50-period moving average, but you see the point? We're right here, and these are areas. BKNG, I think, was on there too. Yeah. So this is probably very, very much so above the 50-period moving average right here. But now we've dipped back down. So could we bounce? I hope this answers the topic request, but that's how you can simply do this. Coming down too, by the way. Some people, they're like scalping the markets. Of course, the danger here is that it is against the trend, and you never know when the trend is going to actually shift like it did here, make a new high. But you can see how you went below. As soon as you went below and back up above, you spiked. In this case, we're saying, let's be above, maybe the trend's already up. Okay, well, that hopefully answers the question and answers it quickly for you there. Real quick final note, if we wanted to put any moving average above there, you guys have seen me do this probably more than 10 times in the last couple of years. But just to show you again, you could add another condition in here, just real simply say, oh, let me see, I got to get in the right screen. There it is. I'm going to go back in the condition wizard again, off the scan. I'm going to click add condition, price, right? Closing price is greater than a simple moving average of 50. So that would help to define the trend for us so that we're looking for, when it bounces off that bottom, it's a reversion to the mean in the direction of the upward trend. Okay. So it's currently above the 50 over the last bar, and there you go. Okay. So that's how we could simply just put a trend built into it to help us out using Bollinger Bands. All right, you guys. Hey, by the way, there has been, speaking of Bollinger Bands, when the Bollinger Band goes within the Keltner channel, you get the TTM squeeze. I'll pull that in right now, and we'll see if we have any of these in here. But you have to get both Keltner channels. There's a lot of lines in here. An easy way to do it is just to take a look at TTM squeeze right over here, just adding in that indicator. And I'm going to go ahead and just set it up. I'm going to just look at the comparisons here on the squeeze. There's another line. We are currently in a squeeze, and you can see the Bollinger Bands fitting within the Keltner channels. We're seeing a lot of compression in the market right now. And are we setting up for a big move on these companies? It takes a lot for prices to be within sort of a Bollinger Band squeeze. But if the Bollinger Bands go within the Keltner channels, which is another form of looking for volatility in trades, that can represent an even more significant consolidation. I want to highlight this because there are some interesting stocks that have come in here recently. We'll see what happens with them. But remember these squeeze bars, how many bars we've been in the squeeze. We built this a little while ago, but we're getting a fair number of these coming up in the S&P 500. I'll let this line up. This just tells us how long it's been in the squeeze. In other words, how many red dots do we have as prices have been holding within here in that range? Bollinger Band within the Keltner channel. Let me just do a refresh on this, and we'll clear this up, and I'll show you guys some of these here as we pull them up. It was taking a little bit longer to load. Ah, dang. All right, hang on. I did jot some of these down to take a look at, but when you see this, it can represent, real kind of price compression. And I'll show you this right now. We've been seeing this in some of these energy companies as of late. Take a look at this with me. This is AEP. AEM being a gold stock that a lot of traders have been looking at. The trend's been up on this, but over here you'll notice that we've begun to just barely. I've followed these, and I've noted that many of these have just barely begun to come out of that compression. In other words, if we come back down in a range and now prices are on the verge of breaking out of that range and going higher, well, just draw a line back sometimes on these if the trend is up, and it is, resting on a prior high. You've got another one over here too, resting near prior highs, which when I see this, What do you guys think? I mean, I always want to take a look at the weekly. Oh yeah, we've been seeing this for a while now. We're right back to it. We're seeing compression in the price, and it's starting to go higher here, breaking out. Now, I can't say this is just the very first day we began to break above that level. So, uh, price expansion has occurred after coiling, resting along this level. I know a lot of these utility companies are in high demand just due to the requirements now of AI. And so some of these might be on the verge of resuming that long-term upward trend. I'm going to go ahead and put a small trade on here right now. And just to highlight this as we set it up, we'll just go ahead and start this one off with just, I'll do a bracket order. Maybe it's like a flag trade. Let's see, going to be a good tail cancel and a good tail cancel here. I'm going to just adjust these on the chart when I get it. We'll just start it off. It's in the $100 range. Maybe we can add 50 if it breaks up higher here. But one that might be coming out of a base, there's the trade right there. We'll go ahead and adjust these right now. I'm going to zoom in so we can kind of get to it. Okay, so in terms of a breakout, I'm just going to put it just below the prior day's low right here in terms of a potential exit level, the stop. The target, I'm going to pull that higher above this high range, but I want to kind of look at it as the possibility of a flag type. Oh, one more. There we go. Flag type follow through, as in a wave up, consolidation, and a next flag move to the upside here. Okay. I'm just going to make sure that I've kind of arranged that correctly. I've got to show you some others in here as well. But if we look at it, it's close. Somewhere in there, I can adjust it, but due to the interest of time, we've got to be, I'll just send this through for now. All right, some others in here too. BLK, which we actually saw in the other run right there. Long consolidation. It too has been in a longer term upward trend, breaking up right there. You will find gaps sometimes on these trades too. Notice down here, we were in the TTM squeeze for a little bit. This is a totally additional, totally separate indication for the possibility of a breakout. We might be able to tie these in, to price patterns that we're looking at too. So part of this class is ThinkScript trading. We're seeing a fair number of these come up. I'll go ahead and share that as well. Let's just show you one more. I'll share that in the chat if you don't have that already. But look at this. So CTAS, some of the value stocks are starting to just move off the bottom. We don't know if it'll continue or not, but some of that has been unfolding. So there's another one right there. You can see it right here, just coming off of that long-term base. Sometimes these long-term bases can really be big moves that can follow through later on. But okay, there's a lot to look at there in terms of those squeeze bars. I'll go ahead and just share this right now with you guys. I'll edit it and share it. Again, not guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy, but there you go. So this is the TTM squeeze bars. All right, everybody. Well, hey, it was good to be with you all. Look forward to future discussions. Thanks so much for your help in the chat, Kevin. And yeah, let us know any other additional topic requests. Definitely more each week, more and more as we get into it, more ThinkScript trading. So excited to take a look at that. There's a lot of interesting ThinkScripts we've got to take a look at more all the time through your requests. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.